to do it. Now, what can happen is that some people, by the time they realize that, okay, this thing has helped me, you don't even need them to be champions of getting other people to join. And I'm saying not just for the NAFAD programs, not also only for the IWFI programs, but any initiative. What can happen is that some people, by the time they realize that, okay, this thing has helped me, you don't even need them to be champions of getting other people to join. I'm in trouble. I'm now getting feedback.
Yes.
Charles, are you live streaming and then causing us to have delayed transmission?
No, wait a second to Lagos.
I got to go Amazon about.
So what I'm saying is, first of all, it's important that the members of the work get to know well what offers, in quotes, are on the table and what these programs do for people. If those in the work have participated in some of these programs, it's easier for them to realize the richness, the beauty of what those programs offer, and it will be easier for them to promote their activities. So I think it's also good that IWFI, NAFAD, or other groups that have things doing in different initiatives should, as much as they can, get people to know what is happening and to see what you can do. Now, not everybody may be inclined to certain things, it's true, okay? But if I'm saying that the family, for example, is one of the priorities that the General Council is asking us to work on, then I think it would be good not to invent the wheel if the wheel is already invented, to go through some of the things that are already there and maybe get ideas from what we have that can even be an improvement, an update, an upgrading of the things that are already there. But I think all of us should see the need for taking care of the families as something that is a priority in the work. And then let's look inwards and see the things that we already have. What can we do to take advantage of those ones? It's always like that when some people attend an activity organized by either NAFAD, IWFI, and then they start asking, but why didn't anybody tell us this? I would also think that it would be good. It's not a question of blowing one's trumpet. But if we have a commodity, something we have packaged that is good, and let us also see all the means that we can employ to sell that product. If I know that my family has, somebody in my family is doing something nice, it's not out of place to promote me. We see it every day. I will vote for my niece, vote for this person who is doing it, because you want the family to progress. So let's get more materials, but I encourage people, those who have not done any family enrichment course, to see what they can do. The local councils also try to get involved to know, because we have people in your center that may need specific programs that can help them. And if we don't have that knowledge, it will be very difficult for us to even offer adequate advice. So as much as we can, let us see if we can go through those programs. And I think it will make it easier for us to get our friends and get our family members to take advantage of them.
Thank you, Father.
All right, thank you. As you can see, they are streamlining, they're streaming the get together. So all those who are fortunate to have had the door closed before them by Charles can go to the chat and see the YouTube channel there and join, please.
Okay, so Tony, please, it's your turn. Tony, although you will have your mic is not on. Tony Okoegwale, your mic is now on. So Paul, are you ready now? Okay, Andrew.
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, you are ready. Okay,
I am ready.
Grab the opportunity immediately. All right, good. Can we see you, please?
Yes, I'm coming. Yes, my question, Father, has to do with matching attendance with the cost or rising cost of things. Lately, there's been this news and information about increasing the cost of Iroto retreat. Okay, so personally, I feel a bit more concerned because we cannot be saying lower number of people are not attending means of formation, for example, the retreat, and then the cost being increased. And not only that is increased, which is fine with inflation and all the rest, but the timing of this cost increase is what actually makes some of us very unsettled. My view is that if we want to increase costs for all these things, that it should be timely so that people can adjust. For example, recently we received information that the cost of going to retreats this year has been increased. Not only that, not by 30%, and then that people who already paid, they have to go and make up the balance. So if there is any way we can encourage, this is my view, that the communication should flow professionally, because we cannot be preaching Opus Dei and doing something different. We might have to be a sure example. Those who are occupying positions in different units of the prelature, should also, because we are all stakeholders, spiritual stakeholders, so to speak. We have a stake. Okay, so if, for example, I'm talking with my friends and then talk about, and then of course I say, oh, it's 60,000 naira or 100,000 naira, and after 2 weeks I say, oh, it's almost 6,000, it's 100,000, it looks somehow. So if there's a way you can intervene somehow, let information flow directly so that we can be very more tact, in handling this thing. But that is my own concern about, because sometimes when you say, oh, the price has increased, and then all of a sudden you say no, people are not coming for means of information. That seems to be something is causing it. So we look at issues the way it is, and then be able to see how we can solve the problem. Thank you, Father.
Yeah, thank you very much for that observation. And it's a timely observation that, well, I think we'll continue restudying it. Just one thing to keep in mind, that every year, except due to very stringent reasons, every year in October, the prices in Iroto, new prices always come out in October, because that's when the new financial year for the conference centers starts. Okay, so we should keep that in mind, that in October every year, if there is no increase in fees, we will know by that October, because they have to do a budget, study the budget, study vis-a-vis the things that are available, like you said, the rising cost of things. Sometimes things can, like I said, it's an unusual thing, but if they have a rising cost of diesel or fuel overnight and whatever happens, okay, things can. And there have been some years in which they have not been also increased. What we have not had is a decrease in price. And the day that was that, I think we'll all be very happy. I'm sure everybody wants to attend the means of formation. And we are not oblivious to the fact that the situation in the country everywhere is not something to smile about. I would also say, yes, we have to study it a bit more. It's not that it's not studied. Maybe, like you said, the complication is not done in a way that everybody feels carried along. But just for future, just to be able to say, every year in October, new set of prices starting from that October is announced, because you do the budget from October to October. But at the same time, I think Paul said something important, which is that all of us are stakeholders. And all of us are the ones taking care of the conference center, even though there are specific people who are running the Iroto and Iwolo. But I think it's something that has to make us think, because the projects are for all of us. And some of us here are people who run businesses, who have experience in ways of doing things. And I think this is part of the places where we can take that sense of initiative and that being in the front line to contact the people who are in charge to be able to say, look, let us look at possible solutions. I'm aware that they're getting some donations to help put up solar panels in Iroto and Iwolo to see if that can also reduce the cost of running the generator, because a good amount of the costs that are incurred there come from power. So there are some things that are being worked on that can help to at least make sure the price increases will not be as steep as, I mean, nobody wants to have pay an additional amount of money for anything. Even when you can afford it, we all feel that pain that, why should I pay more? It's not a question of comparing Iroto with other establishments to see, they are paying less or they're paying more. The conference center is ours, a fantastic means of formation that we'll continue looking at things. One day, I don't want it to happen, but one day we may decide to close Iroto or to close Iwolo, because it's not viable, and because of what. So we don't want to get to that level. So I'm also using this opportunity to appeal those who think they have ideas, suggestions, ways of doing things. And for example, one of the things we're also encouraging people is to have more and more supernumeraries involved in the entities, in running some of these entities that take care of apostolic works, because we all need resources, human resources, material resources to keep all these things moving. So it's not that Iroto or Iwolo is for certain people, it's for all of us. And I think, please, anybody who has other suggestions, other ideas, people who want to volunteer to do some work in those entities, I think I'll be very, very glad to have that. While at the same time, yes, we'll look at this idea of communication and maybe to get people to realize that if whatever you're paying, I mean, those who are in charge will be able to specify it a bit more, that the budget runs from October to October, and that new prices, if there are going to be new prices, will always come out in October of each year. But thank you very much, Paul, for that observation.
Thank
Yes, who's next on the list? Okay, so we seem to have run out of clientele in terms of comments, questions. Or anybody have any something to share, some anecdote to share from his angle? And then Father Tony, there's a request that if you could recap the priorities from the General Council for those who joined a bit late and have joined the YouTube channel. Maybe before we go, yes, please.
All right. But now or after anybody?
After we've exhausted the questions and comments.
All right. No problem.
Okay. Okay. So I think that's about all.
More questions.
I still have many things in mind though that I can talk about.
Yes, please. I think you should go ahead, please, Father Tony.
Okay.
Because we're warming up. This question is taking up. We're warming up. Giovanni.
Is Giovanni on the line?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Giovanni, please.
Yes, Father.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Giovanni.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, tell us.
Can we see you?
No, you can't see me now.
Okay, all right. Please go ahead.
Thank you, because I'm having my birthday. You see me other time.
Okay, it's understood.
Yes.
Please. Make your comments or your question.
So I remember at the last get together with you, Father, there was one specific point, an indication that you gave, which has to do with getting to know fellow faithful of the work better in the various locations that we are. But I think as time went, I can't really recall how the substance of getting that in place happened. And so as it is today, it seems as if what had been said at that time remained as it has been. Because apart from some persons making personal effort to get to know other people very closely, I can't actually recall if there is any mechanism to have this done in a corporate level so that we can get to know ourselves better in that regard. So I'll ask, what guide would you give us to make this thing happen so that we can be closer to each other across the various locations where we are? Thank you.
All right, thank you. One thing is to start at the level of the centers, because you can have people who are in the group, and if they don't make the effort in the group to get to even know the others, it will be difficult to even think of getting to know the others in the locations where they may be. So I would suggest let things start at the level of the centers, of the groups. We have different groups in a center, and then you realize that maybe even amongst them, they don't know one another. But this also has to be done in a way that is natural. So that if there are things that have to do with family commemorations, this person has a burial, since this person's child has graduated, things that you can say can easily bring people together. And that's one way. I was in Helmbridge yesterday, and one of the things I was shown by the director there was that a circle had just taken place in the house of Chris Enuke, that the people in his center have decided that once in a while they'll go to his house and have the circle there. Okay, because he's already quite elderly, and he was competing with Paragapitus in Abuja as the eldest supernumerary in Nigeria. You know? But some things like that can be done to facilitate getting to know other people in the group. And at another level is, I think that we don't always have to wait for directives to come from commission. That's the level of the local council. People can be thinking, how can we get others in the center to maybe have some things that can be done together that will facilitate having people get to know one another. There are some cities where you have only one center. I think that one is easy, so that everybody who comes for a quarterly recollection is easy to know who are the members of the work. Like I said, also in Lagos, there was an initiative that Victor Iloba and others were pushing, but at the end of the quarterly recollection, that the people stay back and have like a get-together and also invite members of their families who have come for the recollection to be there, so that is a natural was also of getting to know other people of the work and their families. But these are things that in each area, you find what is more convenient and what works, because in some places, like I said, if you have only one center, you can devise something that can easily fit into what all the people in the center are doing without waiting for the quarterly recollection. In some places, we even have in the city quarterly recollections. You know, they now have to start thinking, what else can we do apart from the Mass of the 6th of June that you now meet almost everybody. So, but is at the level of that sense of initiative. I say more and more, we have to be the ones making suggestions, things that we think are important or worthwhile that can help to transmit this family spirit of Opus Dei. And that's why we're saying the supernumeraries, you are there where you find yourselves in, and you are the ones who should, with the help of your own experience and the local council, trying to see what works. You can try something and initiate it, and it doesn't work. There's no problem. You try another one, but I think at that level of seeing what is there on the field is more important. The suggestions coming from there than maybe many times waiting for commission to send something. Commission can say, okay, it is good that you explore possibilities, but I think it's now at the level of the centers, at the level of each supernumerary to think, to make suggestions. One thing I forgot to mention and is important is that the Father has given me the mandate to convoke what is called a regional assembly, which is something that takes place every 10 years. It's foreseen in the way Opus Dei functions, that every 10 years, the region does, as it were, a kind of assessment to consider things that are being done and things that can be done in the future in the region. So in the next few weeks, we'll try to put things in place so that we can fix the dates for the next regional assembly in Nigeria that probably take place next year. And we're going to send some questions, and we're going to give opportunities for supernumeraries to also put in their own aspects, things that they feel can be done better, things that they feel can be done, so that reflecting on the spirit of Opus Dei, thinking of the service we ought to lend to the church, to the work, to souls, to make suggestions and come together in the different meetings that will be held for the regional assembly to continue proposing things that will help us to carry the region forward better. This will take place next year. And already the theme of the regional assembly is already out. Along this path to the centenary, how we can deepen the charism that we have received from God and see how we can improve in our work of service to the church, to the work, to souls. This is like the background. So why I'm saying this is for us to continue having it at the back of our minds that Opus Dei is very much ours. And if it is ours, then each one needs to foster a sense of initiative, of ownership, and not feel timid at the hour of suggesting things and making things known. You can have many suggestions, some will be tried, some will be left for later on, but I think we need to encourage that all of us feel that Opus Dei is really ours, it's in our hands, and it's ours to push forward. So at least that's initiative that has started in Lagos with the last recollection, quarterly recollection. But I think there's nothing wrong with other people looking for other ways that they can get to know one another. At the same time, avoiding it being like, okay, let's use this as a way of climbing the social ladder, that some people also can get a wrong impression to think that when they work, so we can get connections, which is something we also have to avoid. I remember being in one place, and one woman was with her husband. They were waiting to see a member of the work. And then as I was there, I came into the office, and they were like, oh, where are you from? Which parish are you? I said, I'm a priest of Opus Dei. And the wife turned to her husband and said, you see what I've been telling you? I've told you, Father, I've told him to go and be joining them in that so that he can get connections. And she was saying this in front of me like that. So the husband was saying, is it what we discussed in the bedroom that you're now bringing in front of Father like this? But the idea is, okay, we're doing this in exponential enterprise. Let us also not turn it into something that will be so, say, human, that we start losing sight of what we are doing in the work. So it's to strike that balance, but at the same time, know that since we're a family, we also have to find ways of getting to know one another and see what can be done in the future.
Okay, so we'll take Rotimi's question or comment, after which you will wrap up nicely by...
Sorry, I wanted to speak to Olisa from...
Olisa, okay.
Yes.
So Rotimi, quickly, then Olisa. Then Father Tony will answer both questions together. Rotimi, please. Okay, so while Rotimi is make up his mind, Olisa, please, can we have your comments or question? Olisa. Now you can talk about stolen mandates.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's about the quarterly recollection and the initiative pushed by the Eleko Center with Victor Ilobaden. The last one we had at White Sands, we noticed that some people had left before the end of Mass because they had attended Mass before. And then for some reason, maybe communication or so, those that were there started to leave on time. That actually was a good ground for people to get to know themselves and bond better. But of course, the numbers were not so sufficient at that ground. So if the next activity coming up is better coordinated, perhaps this will happen more effectively.
Okay.
All right. Noted. Olisa, are you still on?
Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I don't know if I can be heard.
You can be heard loud and clear. Can we see you?
Okay. Okay. I'm Olisa Olisokolo, actually from Ekulu Center. Father, good evening.
Good evening. Nice to see you again.
Yes. Okay. Mine is more of a comment and more of an experience because it has to do with the fraternal love that I see we live, and I feel that it can help when we continue sharing it out. You know, last 2 months, okay, in August, my wife had the surgery, and of course, the thought that you could share that information with the director, and he sends it up for prayers, as it's to the vicar for prayers, was something that I feel goes beyond just talking about the fraternal love. It goes beyond just that. It's something we live, you know, because I know that part of the experiences I went through was so encouraging. I know that while the surgery was in Oka, several attempts were made. In fact, someone was sent to come and visit us in the hospital. A supernumerary was sent, and the calls that kept coming, the consolation, the solidarity that kept on coming around goes a long way to show how the fraternal love can make us feel better and know that there is someone out there still watching out and praying for us. So for me, I think it's one thing that I feel we can continue, we can embrace more, because it goes a long way when we ask for one another, when we go out there and try to be there for one another. You know, it goes a long way to show that the fraternal love that we profess, it's something that is lived out for. So I also want to you know, share that, because it was a moving part for me. The turning part for me to see that what happens to me actually affects everyone. And I know the prayers went a long way. The outcome and all that was something that was good. So I really thank God for what we receive on a daily basis through the teachings and through the experiences we see, because it goes a long way to show that the work Opus Dei is really something that is there to be lived and to be seen. You know, so that's just for me a little experience from here for me.
Thank you very much. And it's a constant reminder, whenever I see Olisa, I smile because I was giving Olisa a class of doctrine 20 years ago in Oka, and going from Enugu to Oka and with some people, and not knowing where that sowing will end up. Yeah, and now 20 years afterwards, thanks be to God, Olisa is a supernumerary. Now, one thing that is important is that, as our father said, if somebody is sick, we should be willing to steal heaven for that person. But I also think that we don't have to wait for the person to be sick or the person to be in difficult situations. In fact, there was a supernumerary whose wife was kidnapped, and of course, everybody was praying. It was such dramatic moments. It's easier for us to come together and try to face the challenge. But I think it should even be something from the ordinary point of view that each day we don't miss out in our prayer, in our concern for every member of the work, even the ones we don't know that are going through difficulties. But because we are praying and we think that whatever I'm doing sustains the life and the struggle of every other person in Opus Dei, it's something that gives a kind of positive touch to our interior life, to our struggle, and to be able to claim for ourselves the prayers of so many other people when we feel that we are in a difficult situation. So it's good to see how we can foster each one at his own level, that level of care for the others' concern, knowing that if the others have our backs and we have their backs, that it's easier for people to achieve much when they know that they are accompanied. But like I said, is to start already in the normal things. Things that give us joy. We say that somebody hasn't come for the circle for a couple of times. It's for us to start getting concerned, even if it's to ask the director, I haven't seen this person. And then the director can tell, sorry, he has jackpot. No, because this is a common thing that is happening now, that the Vicar of Canada was so happy when he saw me, and he was saying that, wow, Nigeria and Canada will form a great team. No? Yeah, fantastic. Then we'll continue exporting as much as we can. But it's important to take care of that fraternal love. It's important. It's important. No? And let us also not be reticent too much in sharing things. There are some people who are more private than the others, and they wouldn't want things happening to them to be known. We have to respect each person's way of being. Okay? It's not that we have to now invade everybody's life because we are going to live fraternity. We have to live fraternity according to the way the person wants to be helped. So, but let's be on the lookout for one another. Let's be willing to say volunteer for things, because there will be some supernumeraries that may need some encouragement, even if it's just to go to the house and visit the person. There are some people that may live in far-off places that it gives them a lot of joy that people come to sit down with them and talk. It's not like Pagapitus in Abuja that celebrated 94 the other day. He was so happy that people were there with him. And of course, people were even begging him to bless them. So see if they could collect the longevity that he has and all that. But like I said, let's live fraternity, let's live that unity in the normal, everyday thing, so that when there's a possibility and there's a challenge that makes it more difficult, it will be easier for us to live fraternity better. Okay. Now to, I don't know if there's any other question.
None, and our time is up.
Okay, sorry. Charles said I should outline again the things that were priorities mentioned in the workshop. The first is that we should try as much as we can to continue the work being done with young professionals. Wherever those people may be, somebody is asking whether we can be doing things for them online because they're always hustling. Well, if the bird learns to perching, as they say, the hunter has to learn to shoot without missing. So if your work is to say, let us look for young professionals and let's look for them wherever they may be, let's see what we can do to reach out to them as much as possible, because they're a vital part of the church, a vital part of what society will need afterwards. Then the second thing is to have the supernumeraries very much in the front line. Know that God has chosen them. He has chosen them with a mission. He has chosen them to be apostles, and that they are in charge of Opus Dei as much as the Father in the area that is their competence. So that the supernumeraries should feel this sense of urgency in looking out for the ways in which they can live their vocation well and see how they can transmit the teachings of the work, the teaching of the church, to as many people as possible. And then the third priority that the General Council has is everything that has to do with promoting the family, trying to ensure that the family is looked after and that things are done with families to increase their formation, that all this in every region, depending on the culture, that each region should, or each supernumerary, more than even the region, each supernumerary should see what he is doing to improve the formation and the care that we give to families. These are the three main things. And on the final note, something that many of you may have heard and are a bit concerned is about what has to do with the statutes of the work, the motu proprio that came out, and the different things that we have seen written or publications or YouTube videos, different things that are coming out around the motu proprio and the statutes. The Father wishes to transmit to all of us the fact that we should remain serene. That whatever is happening now, everything is in God's hands, and that the Father is doing everything humanly and supernaturally possible that he can do with regard to what Opus Dei is. And he says, at the essence of our vocation, there won't be much changes there. That the juridical form that we may be under and the juridical definitions are not what define life. So, of course, Opus Dei has always existed since 1928, has gone through different juridical coverings, but at each moment, our Father will always point out to those who are in charge, this is what Opus Dei really is, even though it may be in this format or that other format. So that the important thing is for us to reflect on our identity, our history, our mission, to know what Opus Dei is, and to live that spirit we have received. In union with the church, in union with the Pope, just like the Father is doing, he's giving us this wonderful example, and he's telling us what has to be communicated that can be communicated, he will let us know. And that's why sometimes he has messages on the website of the work telling us things, because it's encouraging us to pray a lot. And he says to pray with calm, but at the same time to pray with perseverance. This is the moment in which all of us have to be united with one another and with the Father in whatever is going on with regard to the juridical nature of the work. But above all, I repeat, the most important thing is that all of us are striving to live the spirit of the work wherever we find ourselves. Well, we're getting to the end of this. One other thing I did in Rome was to look at the archives of the region, because we want to write the history of Opus Dei in Nigeria, the first 50 years of Opus Dei. And therefore, we're getting a lot of materials. Those who think that they have interesting things to say about the work, their own ways of getting to know the work, things that people that they have known from the very first moments. Thankfully, Professor Alos is still here to give us some gist. But I'm sure there are a lot of supernumeraries people or your family members who have had contact with the work who may have some things to tell us about Opus Dei in the country, about your own context in the way you have met the work, etc. Please feel free to contact Jess Castellote, who is the other person writing the book, so that we can have a rich, to say, deposit of materials that can help us to tell our own story, because we have to tell the story of Opus Dei ourselves. We're the ones who are living it, we're the ones who are called to transmit it to others. So to have that very much in mind in case you have things to help us. Charles is saying that we should go. So it was nice having this get together, nice seeing your faces. Let us also give a big shout out to Gogo Ndulwe, that's his wife, gave birth to a bouncing baby boy on Wednesday. And we celebrate our joys, we celebrate our sorrows in the same way that we're a family. The things that happen to one another should also be of concern to every member of this family. So thank you very much for your time. And let's continue doing Opus Dei wherever we are. The work is in God's hands. The work is in our hands. A lot has been done. A lot still remains to be done. Let's see how we can continue being Opus Dei wherever we find ourselves. Thank you very much, and
thank you very much.
Thank you, Father.
Father.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Father.
Thank you, Father. Thank you very much, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Welcome back.
thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Bye.
Father.
Happy
Thank you, Father.
Independence.
Bye-bye.
oh.
Thanks to all of us.
We're having sorry.
All right. Thank you, Father.
My father, thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for being a good host.
I took note of the Canada Nigerian team. Okay, we'll take that offline.
That's for Spanish. I hope you heard it.
Thank you very much, Father. Tell him.
Don't discriminate now, but okay, fine.
I'm not saying what the vicar was telling me about the supernumeraries that are going to Canada. So once he starts telling me about numeraries, then I'll let you know.
Okay.